Hi everyone, I'm Dr. Freddie Gomez, and you're watching The Doctors In on CNN Philippines. Welcome to your telemedicine appointment where we answer questions about COVID 19. So, in our fight against the COVID 19 virus, eating right and staying fit are very important, especially among older adults. Health issues that come with age include the loss of the health of the muscles and a decline in someone's immune function. So we need to ensure that the elderly are getting the nutrition they need. And today we'll talk about healthy aging during this time of the COVID 19. So we have in the program Dr. Jose Rodolfo Dimaano Jr. He is the Medical Affairs Director for Abbott Pacific Asia. Dr. Dimaano, thank you for joining us here on The Doctors In.
Good afternoon, Doc Freddie, and good afternoon to all of our viewers, and I'm very happy to be here.
Now, first and foremost, Dr. June, let's first discuss the common experiences of aging adults and the elderly when it comes to muscle strength. What happens to the body as it ages?
Okay, one of the common experiences of the aging adult and also the elderly is a general loss of physical strength. Most often, they experience low energy. They're not being able to do the things that they used to do, let us say walking. The task of walking may seem so difficult. They have low energy, and they also experience symptoms such as difficulty in walking long distances, going up the stairs, simple activities like lifting objects and doing their activities of daily living or household chores. Sometimes they finish it. I mean, they do it, but they don't finish it. And on top of that, they're also more susceptible to having some illnesses, especially infections, because their immune system can also go down.
Yeah, that's right. So muscle strength greatly affects the way of life of aging adults. Kaya importante that caregivers or family members are also aware of this. Now, Dr. June, how does muscle loss impact the immune function of seniors?
Okay, muscle loss is actually important because it can affect heavily the immune system or all the other metabolic functions of an aging adult. Most of us know that muscle has some structural functions, right? Like supporting movement, structure of the body, mobility, and things like that. No? Yun yung commonly alam natin. It is a little known fact that our skeletal muscles also has metabolic functions, meaning to say they support the body by giving, it's being a reservoir of carbohydrates, such as glycogen when it's broken down. Carbohydrates are released into the system, which is an easy source of energy for the body. And more importantly, muscle is also a reservoir for protein. And if you break it down, amino acids, which are important to support other bodily functions, such as supporting the immune system. The production of antibodies relies heavily on the presence or the availability of amino acids and proteins, which are generally coming from muscles. That's why it is important to take care of our muscles to preserve lean muscle mass. Because otherwise, if we have a very low muscle mass, let's say we lose about 10% of our lean muscle mass, it can already negatively impact our immune system and our susceptibility to infections. In fact, if you lose about 20 to 30%, there's already poor wound healing and also, again, susceptibility to infections. And especially if you lose more, let's say you lose about 30 to 40%, the person becomes more susceptible to infections such as pneumonia, and that can even lead to death, no? If it's not addressed urgently or as soon as possible, as soon as the muscle loss is detected. So aside from being a nutritional status marker, it also has some metabolic functions in the body, which is directly related to the immune function or the strengthening of the immune system.
That's very interesting how the correlation between the loss of muscle or muscle mass and that of someone's or an elderly person's immunity. That's why keeping an active lifestyle is key in preventing that of the loss of muscle and strength as well. Now, doctor, what are some of the ways aging adults can keep an active lifestyle while they're at home?
Okay, that's a good question. because most of the elderly right now are at home during this period. Simple things like, let's say, going up and down the stairs, as long as they're holding onto the handrails, that strengthens their quadriceps muscles or their leg muscles. They can also fill some, let's say, bottles of water with water and lift it and use it as weights. Let's say they can do bicep curls. They can also lift it above their shoulders and above their heads to exercise their shoulder muscles. They can also do the standing up from a sitting position, because that will also strengthen their leg muscles. They can do it repeatedly, let's say for over 5 minutes. So that's, I think, enough for them to exercise their leg muscles. They can also do a lot of walking in their yard, in front of the house, wherever they can. They can do brisk walking, and they can even walk slowly as long as their bodies remain active. Sometimes they even follow videos, let's say in the internet, or they have their own videos of exercise program that they can follow, like dance routines and other exercises that they can easily do at home with the help of just their body weight. They can also do some, instead of push-ups, if they can do push-ups, then they can do push-ups while kneeling down maybe, or they can also push against the wall if they cannot do the push-ups in the horizontal position. So those are some of the simple things that they can do as examples of how they can strengthen their muscles even if they're at home.
That's right. Now, a key component for all of this to work well is the elderly or our senior loved ones take in consideration. What is the importance of a proper diet, Dr. June?
Okay, because these are two important things that they can easily do at home. No, one is, as you mentioned a while ago, physical activity or exercise, especially the strength training or resistance training or the weight-bearing exercises, which is good for the muscles. And the second one is proper nutrition through, a wholesome diet. One way is to eat a complete and balanced meal, like the usual food that they eat. Make sure that it's diversified, complete and balanced, meaning to say it has a complete blend of macronutrients and micronutrients. When you say macronutrients, you're talking about carbohydrates, fats, and protein. But for the elderly, I would give more emphasis on protein because the Filipino diet usually has a lot of carbohydrates already, so you can easily obtain that. But protein is something that is a bit challenging to take in from our usual diet. So I would advise them to be more mindful in their protein intake, which can be taken from, let's say, lean meats, fish, milk, eggs, and if they're into plant-based diet, they can eat legumes, pulses, beans, tofu, and all of these types of different sources of protein. But they also have to be mindful of their micronutrient intake. When I say micronutrient, I'm referring to the minerals, vitamins, which support a lot of chemical processes in the body to maintain health, and also micronutrients such as vitamin A, D, C, E, K, which also support the immune system, including zinc and selenium. These are important to increase the strength of the immune system, and also because of their anti-inflammatory properties and antioxidant properties. All of these can be found in the diet, and they should also consider taking HMB, which is a relatively newly studied nutrient, which is short for hydroxymethyl butyrate. And this nutrient is also found to have some beneficial effects on preserving muscle mass and increasing muscle mass in the body.
That's right. Thank you very much, Dr. June. Do you have a brief message for our viewers out there who have aged loved ones, or even for the senior citizens out there, and how to keep pretty much fit and healthy?
Okay, first of all, the important thing to take note of is prevention and also intervention, a timely intervention. And how we can do that? We can do that in two ways. One is physical activity, physical, movement exercises, weight-bearing exercises, strength resistance training, such as those I mentioned a while ago. And the second one is proper diet and nutrition. I would like to give more emphasis on the complete and balanced aspect. And there is also a concept now which we call the adult nutritional supplementation. They can also consider taking adult nutritional supplementation to supplement their diet, because many of the elderly and the aging adults also are at risk of being malnourished or undernourished, because even if they think they're taking enough, they actually are are not taking enough of these proteins and minerals and other micronutrients. It's important to supplement it with an oral nutritional supplement for the convenience and also for the assurance that they're taking the complete and balanced formulation. Consider also taking higher levels of protein. Usually, we are looking at about zero point 0.8 to 1.5 grams per kilogram of protein per day. However, this is not easily achievable from just diet alone. So it would be good to consider an adult nutritional supplement. And lastly, to consider adult nutritional supplements with HMB, because HMB is difficult to obtain from diet alone. We have to eat 3,000 avocados just to get 1.5 grams of HMB, or we have to eat 750 catfish fillets or 40 glasses of milk or 50 eggs just to get the adequate amounts of HMB. The adequate amount is actually 1.5 grams to 3 grams per day. And that can easily be obtained in 2 servings of an adult nutritional supplements. Our body produces naturally HMB. However, as we age, we also decrease the production of HMB. That is why it's important to consider supplementing our diet with an oral nutritional supplement which can efficiently and conveniently deliver 1.5 grams of HMB per day in just 2 servings.
Very good. Thank you very much, Dr. June Dimaano. Definitely learned a lot today with regards to nutrition, proper nutrition of that of the elderly. Thank you very much for sharing your insights on the program today. When we return, we'll talk about the impact of COVID-19 on the mental health and well-being of the elderly. Stay tuned to the Doctor's In.
This program is brought to you by
Welcome back to The Doctor Is In. I'm Dr. Freddie Gomez, and we want to hear from you. So continue to send your questions via the CNN Philippines Facebook page. The uncertainty and fear brought about by COVID-19 has an increased effect on the mental health and well-being of the elderly. Our senior loved ones need additional measures of care and protection now more than ever. Let's welcome our second guest for today. She is Dr. Shelley de la Vega, and she is the director of the Institute on Aging, and she is a professor at the UP College of Medicine. Welcome to the show, Dr. de la Vega.
Good afternoon, Dr. Freddie. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you for asking. Now, Doctor, let's start off this discussion on how does the COVID-19 pandemic affect the mental health and well-being of the elderly?
You know, Doc Freddie, most of our older persons gain their happiness and quality of life from social interactions. They love to be with family, they love to be with friends. And if the effect of the COVID lockdown or enhanced community quarantine forced them to stay at home. And so that really reduced the amount of time that they were spending with people they cared for. And therefore, we are now seeing a lot of older persons with symptoms of depression, anxiety, and sometimes they get disoriented to time, no, and to their activities. They don't know what time it is, and many of them have problems sleeping.
Yes, it's definitely a problem. But you mentioned social interactions is definitely an important part in a senior citizen's life, you know, and mental well-being. So my question is, how can we ensure that the older generation get the support they need while in quarantine?
All right. Aside from their social support, we also know that they are worried about finances, right? Where to get money for their medicines, where to get the food that they're going to eat. But with regards to social interactions, it's very important for our older persons to be in contact with family. If they have cell phones, why not? If they can get a phone call, landline, and sometimes, you know, a visit, even if it's by the gate, a visit. And of course, for our older persons, it's very important for them to be in touch with their religious practices. They now are able to join mass every day. They now are able to join TV mass. There are a lot of options now, spiritually speaking. But the barangay, I think, the barangay has a role to play. The senior citizens associations also have a role to play because we really need a community to help our senior citizens regain their sense of pride, self worth, and interaction.
That's right. And it's important that while everyone practices social distancing, we stay connected with our loved ones and our friends, especially our elderly loved ones. Uh, Doctor, what are the ways to keep the elderly active and involved?
All right. When we did a study called Fit for Frail, which is funded by DOH and PCHRD, we looked at their usual activities, what they enjoy doing. Uh, Number one is watching television. So I think watching your show, unfortunately, of course, not everyone has a television, but listening to the radio is very important. And of course, cooking. Cooking is a very important activity, especially for women. So they should continue to do that. And maybe even some crafts that they can learn. Crocheting. I know that some older persons do crocheting. Some people are learning online. Those who are very adept at using the computer and want to learn new skills, they really have this opportunity now. But also, not just learning, but mentoring, providing advice to family, to
Now let's ask.
communities, being active in the barangay. They're able to do that now.
That's right. Definitely trying to get the whole community into it. It will definitely help our elderly citizens. Now let's answer some social media questions. We have a lot of them coming in from the CNN Philippines Facebook page. Let's answer this first one from Jerlo. Some adults make sure that they eat healthy 3 times a day and try to exercise when they can. Would they still be at risk to COVID-19? What do you think, Dr. Shelley?
Yeah, it's always important to eat healthy and to exercise always. That's very basic. But older persons at a higher risk for COVID mortality and hospitalization. And it's really also not just age, but morbidities such as hypertension and diabetes and lung disease from smoking that are contributing to the higher mortality and hospitalization ICU rates of our older persons. So, yes, proper food and physical activity. But also, if you're a smoker, make sure that you quit smoking. And if you drink too much alcohol, I think that would also be very helpful. But always to be engaged mentally, no, and socially engaged, because these are just as important as physical fitness and a good diet. Sedentary lifestyle, sitting all day, poses almost as much as a risk as tobacco, as we know, Dr. Freddie.
That's right. We'll take a quick break, but when we return, we will discuss the best practices in caring for the elderly amid the pandemic. Stay tuned to the Doctor's In. Welcome back to The Doctor is In, and I'm Dr. Freddie Gomez. If any of you are caring for an older loved one, safety precautions are incredibly important. Older people are especially vulnerable to severe illnesses. Let's welcome back Dr. Shelley Ann de la Vega. She is the director of the Institute on Aging, and she's a professor at the UP College of Medicine as well. Now, Dr. Shelley, what are the best practices when caring for the elderly during this pandemic?
All right, Doc Freddie, we cannot underemphasize or overemphasize rather hand washing, no? Physical distancing, and the use of masks if we have an older person living with us. So for those of us who go out to work, whether you're a healthcare professional or just going to regular work, or whether you're going to the grocery, make sure that when you come back, you really have to wash your hands. And when you're out there, you really need to wear your masks. Now, if you are very much at risk because you're a healthcare worker, I think the older person in the home should also be wearing a mask and enforcing some amount of physical distancing from that person who is always coming in from outside. No, we've had recently, we've heard about helpers and drivers who go home every weekend to their families, and when they come back, unknowingly they bring in COVID inside the household. And sometimes, if you do have such helpers or workers in your house, it might be better for you to arrange a schedule with them to stay in your house for a minimum of 1 month to 3 months and then go home to have a short vacation. But when they come back, you need to have them quarantined for at least 14 days. Or if they can be tested with a nasal swab, be sure that they're PCR negative before you can have them come back to the house to live with you. So that's on the level of family and the household. But in the community, we can all help older persons also who might not have access to the market because they live alone or because they're too frail to go out of the house or too sick or they have some disability. So make sure that within the barangay, you have an elder visitation program. Provide them the meals, medicine delivery program if that is necessary. So let's help each other as a barangay, as a church. System-wise, we are hoping that the DOH will push through with its packages, healthcare packages for older persons, so that we not only take care of the COVID issues, but also take care of the health maintenance issues that they need. Those with hypertension and diabetes, those with chronic degenerative diseases that need constant monitoring. We need to make sure that our older persons have access to their doctors for their regular physical, neurological, and mental health checkups. And even before COVID, you should have been well connected to a primary care physician or a primary care team that will give you, the necessary health maintenance and health advice. Vaccination, very important, especially at this time where we are experiencing possibly flu, influx of flu because of the rainy season. So vaccination against the flu and pneumonia, very important for older persons. And of course, if we have other, for example, the DOH I know is planning to have geriatric wards. And hopefully we will have geriatric wards so that when an older person gets sick, whether of COVID or not, that facility will be well designed to take care of older persons safely and with the accessibility options. So there are many levels where we can help the elderly, but most of all, allow the elderly to be helping the family also and to be helping the community and the barangay at various levels because they are not all dependent on us. Many of them are sources of wisdom and they really can help us get through the COVID crisis now.
Definitely a lot that we can do for our older loved ones. Thank you very much, Dr. Shelley de la Vega, for being with us and sharing with us your insights for today's topic. There are several reasons why the elderly are vulnerable, but there are many ways we can keep them protected. Thank you everyone for sending in your questions today. I'm Dr. Freddie Gomez, and we'll see you again tomorrow at 3:30 p.m. only here on CNN Philippines.